Hello everybody, my name is Christian Quick and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about custom sounds that we can make, and specifically for this video, let's make a sound block, and we're going to call this sound block, and then we're going to make the material dot, let's say wood. We're going to give it a hardness and then of 1. And then we don't need any of this extra fancy stuff, so we're going to take this out. But we are going to do dot sounds block sound group dot wood as just a default. This is what we're changing. There are many sounds that you can make for many different things, but I'm going to talk about the entities, and when we actually make a custom entity, we're going to get into that. But for now, we're going to talk about specifically the block sound group for blocks, and then if you just have a regular sound, because sounds are used everywhere. So to make a sound, what kind of stuff do you need? To start off, you're going to need to make a new package, and this we're going to call sound. And then in our sound, we're going to make a new Java class, and we're going to call this mod sounds. And then we're going to extend sound events, plural, and we're going to be a little cheeky. We're going to come into the sound events here, and we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and we're going to look for the registers. So this register, and this one. Don't worry about this one at the top here. Let's just make sure that we copy these 3. Now, I'm going to copy the references, but when we paste them in here, we're going to delete these little 2 registers. Now, something is wrong here. It's saying, hey, it's got some private access in mod sound events, but this is extending sound events, so we don't need it to extend. So if we just return and just kick those sound events out, it will be fine. The other thing that you're going to need to do is in this sound event, register string followed by an ID, and then you're going to return register new ID, and this is where we're going to put our ID. So basically, just call for, actually, you have to call it by your ID. HMH3.modID, and then here we're going to call it ID. Specifically ID because that is the change of this. Now, if you want to call this name, you would have to change this to name. This is going to be for when we register a sound. It's going to be, usually I call it name. Now, this isn't required, but this is recommended. So normally I'll put this at the bottom. So it's the public static void, and then we do the register sounds, and then we normally would put the system.out.println, and then we would do the registering mod sounds for, put a little space, then we're going to do space or a plus, and then we'll do the hmh3.modID, and that is normal. And then you would put this register inside of here. So you can call that with mod sounds dot and then register sounds. This doesn't actually register them, it just tells you it's being registered. This is normally how most of our things are in our initializer here, but we're going to play pretend for this one. When it comes down to the actual register, so the registry is already completed. That is like the hard work of everything. I think sounds are interesting not only because of just like how they're done, like it's how they're done that makes them unique. So if you are making a sound, let's call for public static sound event. And then let's just, if we want a single sound, let's just call this single sound. And we're going to equal this to register, and like I said, it is going to copy this string name register here. So we would just need to put a name, and I would recommend just copying it in all lowercase. So single sound. And then put a little thing at the end, and now it will not be purple. It's not called anywhere, but it is now registered. So with that in mind, that would be for a single sound, but let's also put in for a block, right? let's just cleaning purposes. That's all. That took a lot longer than I was hitting backspace a lot and it wasn't going through. Let's do public static sound event, and then here let's do sound, and then we'll put a space like this equals register, and then we'll do sound, and then like this, and we're just going to copy this 4 times, so there's got to be a total of 5, and they are going to need to be in this order. Break, step, tricked you there, place, fall, and hit. Now, now we would have to recopy the names over here. Break, step, place, fall, hit. If I have them in the wrong order, don't worry. It will actually remind me. These ones, if this is a block sound group, these are the sounds that need to be placed. Break is when the block is broken. Step is when you step on the block. Place is when you place the block. Fall is when you fall on the block from 3 or more blocks above. So you just fall 3 blocks or more, and you fall on this block. It's going to make that sound. And hit is not the broken animation. When it's finished being broken, it'll make that sound. Hit is the breaking animation. So while it's making that the breaking animation, so it's going to do hit. So to call it for a block sound group, we're going to have to do for public static final, and then we're going to call for a block sound group, and then we're going to name this block sound. So here we'll call this sound block. And then from here, we're going to say equal new block sound group. And here is where it's going to tell you, like I said, it's going to be, there's your volume, your pitch, and then it has to be break sound, and then your step sound, and then your place sound, and then your up, hit, and fall need to be switched. So that is very simple. We're going to just copy that and paste it in here, and look at that, hit and fall. It does need to be in that order, otherwise your sounds will be a little bit mixed up. So let's do 1.0f for the volume, and then 1.0f. So that is for the default. I would comma, and then this is where I would start to put in all of your sound events into one big thing. Now, you might get confused if you don't really know which one you're on, because each of them are all called the same thing. Mod sounds dot, you would have your sound break, comma, mod sounds dot, now you would call sound step, mod sounds dot place, mod sounds dot hit, and then last one, mod sounds dot fall, and then a little semicolon at the end, and now this is done. So if we go into our mod blocks, this will actually get called. So where we said that we wanted the block sound group to be wood, if we tried to simply call it like the sound event, which would be called sound, it won't be in here. You actually, because we made a new block sound group and we labeled it something, we're going to actually have to call it from the class. So we'll do mod sounds dot sound block, and now that will have our sound block. I can actually click on it, funny enough. And then here is everything. So we have the entire, the 1, 1, and then all of these. Now, these sounds exist in the game. They are not only registered, but they do something, sort of. Well, we don't have the OGG files. OGG files are very important. OGG files are the only kind of audio format that work in Minecraft. That is something that is hard-coded, and I believe that is something that generally just can't be changed. So, how do you make the OGG files, and how do you change? Let's say, just to show you guys, let's make one together. So for the single sound, right? Let's have one that's called single sound, and we're gonna call it basically. Let's record something for a moment. So all you would need simply just get your sound recorder. And this is going to be really interesting because I'm going to be double recording. So let's say I am recording the beginning of something and then I have a sound. So this is the test sound. And then I'm going to be talking a little bit after just to show that, hey, this is the end sound. So it's very common that you are going to have a lot of extra files. Now, you can do this in one or two ways. You can go on your thing, and you can call for an MP3 to OGG, and you can find one that works to you. My personal favorite would be this free converter, but actually, I ended up getting a new way of doing this because the reason is because remember how in the voice recorder there was some extra stuff in the front and in the back, and I needed some way to quickly edit that so I can only have the sound in the middle. I would recommend downloading one called Audacity. It's free, easy to use. Well, once you know how to use it, I found it very frustrating, but now I'm pretty familiar with it, so you just kind of click on it, download Audacity, it downloads, and you are good. So first, I have Audacity on here, so let's load it up, and let's see how this works. All right, here we are. We have Audacity up and working. So I need to figure out where this is. So we're going to show in folder. Here is my recording MP3. And what we are going to do is we need to change this recording MP3. Let's actually rename this to, I believe we said this was going to be single sound, despite it not being a single sound. And so now it is our single sound MP3. We're going to drop it in here. And then I would recommend where I started talking, we're just going to click and just drag this all the way across. And then we're going to click on this and then drag it all the way across like that, leaving us with just this is the test sound. And so that is the completed file. You can do File, Export, Export as OGG, and it will move it somewhere. Now, I have a bunch of OGG files because I had a friend come over, and we're just going to shove it in here with the rest of them because I have made a bunch of sounds with him. Really good time. Save project before closing. Yes? No. No. I'm going to say no because it should automatically be in here anyways. I did export it here to singlesound.ogg. I'm gonna import all of these, well, over time, but first we're just gonna focus on this example. That way you know what I am doing. Second thing that we're gonna need to make, so now we have that OGG file, where do we put it? So we have our blocks, lang, models, textures. So in our assets, we are going to make a new one, directory, and we're gonna call this sounds. And this is where we would put our sounds, and you would shove your single sound in this, hit refactor, and here is your single sound. So now the other thing that you're going to have to do, this one is the one that is a little bit strange. We are going to have to, inside of all this, we're going to have to make a new file called sounds.json. And inside of this is where all of that interesting code is going to be. Now, in our single example, I do remember saying that it's not purple, but it's being registered through this name here. So, a good way to start this up is even if you just simply want to copy and paste that name, Control V, that way now you know it is in fact being called correctly. Go all the way to the front, and then add in your first bracket and then just end bracket. So we're just going to put this out here like that. All right, so now we have our purple single sound. If it is purple, you are so far in the green. You are good to go. All right, so there is two things every time you make a sound type. There is going to be your subtitle, and your subtitle is going to need to have some sort of sound. Testing sound. You can do sound or sounds. And what do I mean by sounds exactly? If I have sounds, and this is where we are going to shove all of our sounds. If I have basically based on your sound. So this is called single sound OOG. So here what we're going to have to call is the by the mod, so HMH3, and then you are going to need to call your single sound, right? So now this is being called when we play single sound. And then if I had more files, we would just do a little comma and then like that. And then we could add, generally, as many sound files that we want. And then this would be like, I see Minecraft do it like this. They go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so you would need more single, like however many variations you want. You would just simply number label them however you feel. Now, like I was showing in my example that I had, yes, I have done that. So SC, SC2, UW1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these are just variations of things. Usually I would never do generally more than 5, but you can make as many as you want. So this is how you would register more than one sound. To test to see if your sound is working, this is the part where we're going to be like, all right, so now we have this sound. It is in our registry like this. It's registered perfectly fine. It's literally just this one line of code. And then we have the sound and also its subtitle. So from here, we don't have to load the data gen or anything like that. Let's just load the client, and then I'll show you a command that you can do to see if your sound is working. All right, here we are in our beautiful Minecraft world, and let's do /play sound, and then you're going to want to do, here is your sound, and if you try and hit it, it's going to say, hey, there's some missing stuff. It's really annoying because you're going to have to type this out every time. Ambient, it doesn't really matter. At S would be for you, and then it needs to have a location. This is the test sound. And there you saw that there was the subtitle, and then you were also able to hear the volume and the pitch that it was played at. If you want to change the volume and pitch for a single sound, you would have to do that through absolute manual editing. This is the test sound. And because the thing is, in a block sound group, you have your volume and pitch here, but when you have a regular sound, you would normally try and call volume and pitch while you have it. Let's try and see if I can find an example. Whenever you go into a class file, Control F, and then look up the term sound events, and these are the things that you should be able to change. Here we have sound events, the block, fire, extinguish, and if I just change this, I believe this would be, I would change this to mod sounds dot single sound, and then everything is perfectly fine. So this is how you would change single sounds, and normally you can see right here, there is your volume and your pitch that is coded directly into where it needs to be. So if you want to change the volume and pitch, in a single setting, there is no way to just put out a default one, because single settings are always put in based on their example. Now, I just happen to use this example, and so this will work with anything that should say sound events. Just change it like that. And then I showed you how to do the mod groups. You would just call the class mod sounds dot, and then whatever your block sound group is, because it's a new block sound group, so it should be counting for that. What we do need to have is we need to make, for the block to take place though, just like we have the single sound and we have a special name for a single sound, we're going to need to make a special sound category, so where it says single sound here, and we're going to need to copy and paste this for every time that we have one of these. So it shouldn't be too hard. All right, and here is how the category should look. So basically, if we just look at our thing, so we have sound break, so we need to call it, and every time we use any of these sounds, that we play any of these sounds, so whenever it breaks, it's going to display the subtitle, and then it will also bring in one of these random sounds. So we have that for break up here, so we have break, step, place, hit, fall, and up here we have break, step, place, hit, and fall. So I'm going to add in the the JSON files, and I'm going to add them into these. So they should, just like I said, look into here, and don't worry about the names of the files. But I'm just going to just kind of cut to that part. All right, that is all done. I now have a bunch of sounds that could happen with the break sound. I have a bunch of sounds that could happen when you step on it, when you place it, when you hit it, and when you fall on it. So now I need to take all of these files and each one of these names. So remember how this name comes from the mod sound? It's coming from this name. If you have anything in here with a name, if you want it to display a sound, you need to make sure that it is in this sounds file and that it is in an OGG file. All right, and I added all these sound files in here. If you're wondering what all these extra sound files are, it is still because I need to add the entity, so these are going to be going to the entity when we add them. But this is a massive ton of sound files, which is why I just basically showed you how to make the single sound. You can test it in game with a command, and when you really learn how to make a working OGG file, you can make as many as you want. If you do personally feel like you just want there to be one sound, there is nothing wrong with there being one sound. It just, I personally think that things sound better in variant types. When I was with Steve, we ended up recording a total of 94 sounds. So we really worked hard on these. So here we have our sounds, your icon. I usually delete this, but you can keep it on there. We have our sound file. So now let's make sure before we get into the block, let's add all the extra stuff for it. I want to basically use a recipe that already exists, so I'm just gonna copy it from there. We're not assets, silly me. But we are actually, let's add it into the data gen because I am going to be adding a loot table, meaning that it will be dropping itself. So let's add the sound block, and then let's also add the model. So data gen, the model provider, and then here we can add in our sound block. So we are going to need a texture, and we're also going to need a recipe. So let's go into, not still over here, data, recipes, and then let's look up the note block. And the note block is created by putting redstone in the middle, right? So that's what we're going to be changing. Save. So let's put this in our recipes, and then we're going to call this the sound block. And let's say that when you put planks, and instead of redstone, let's call it Minecraft note block, Control C, Control V, then we will get the HMH3 sound block. So a little extra sounds, and we can take this out of here, kablooey. And so now we have the recipe, and then every time you make a recipe, I would always suggest making an advancement for it. So let's call for the sound block, and then if you obtain either a Minecraft, actually I think I still have it pasted, don't I? Yep, note block or Minecraft. What's the other thing? Oh, it's a tag. We'll just say if you unlock the note block and make it easy. I could see that causing issues. Then you will unlock the sound block. We'll just copy this, Control C, and then paste it in down here, Control V. So now we have the advancement. The only thing we need to work on is the texture. Hello everybody, it is I, your fancy editor, and here I am here to tell you that I hope you have a lot of fun making these sounds. I certainly had a lot of fun making these sounds, and I'll probably say it again at some point. Sounds are, they're registered interestingly because the JSON file sticks out of the actual folder, like out of all the other folders, and Minecraft actually does that too. People make resource packs, so you could probably do with a resource pack if you want to modify the mic, like the sounds in the game of Minecraft. If you wanted to change those, that is a very possible thing. Um, when it came to this note block, I really tried my best to try and put some sort of face on it. I don't think I did a really good job, but it is perfectly fine because this actually wasn't about had anything to do with texturing. It was all about the sound making and the process and stuff like that. I tried to really also go into further depth into how it works. And I also, you don't even have to worry about the registry. This like, I also made it that really easy because you just literally just copy and pasted it, and then you change like one thing. So, hopefully that was easy. If you ask me what the data gen is, I'm gonna send you this really long paragraph. Trust me, it is worth all your time. If you already have a data gen, good job, love you, congrats. Hopefully you understand what it does and how much of a time saver it is because oh my, it certainly is. But outside of that kind of rant, we can get on. If you have any questions, if you have any sounds, stuff like that. Um, I don't know why Minecraft chose OGG files. That is just they. I feel like it's so odd, but they did. You know, maybe it's a Swedish thing. I have no idea. I would have preferred MP3, like everything records in MP3, and then like OGG is kind of like a hard thing to not find, but I mean you can work with it and work around it, but I mean it is what it is. But without further ado, let's get on back to the video. Now, I do want to give before I start this world, I can run the data gen as I talk about this. That when you have the single sound, remember how I said that in the you can set a custom volume and pitch for every single specific event that happens. When you put in a block sound group, you're going to need to make a volume and a pitch, and you're going to have to find the average sweet spot for all the sounds that you are making. Because normally place is a little bit higher than like step, for example, or I think it's like higher pitch than break. There are some that you're just gonna have to find either the sweet spot with the sound and their pitch when you make them before you put the OGG file in the game, or you're gonna need to find a way to yeah, I think it's either that or try and just keep messing with these numbers until they. I mean, volume doesn't really. I think volume is louderness. That would make sense to me. But pitch does a lot in the change the voice. So I do want to forewarn you about that. I have no idea how these sounds are actually going to sound. I know they're a base file, and I set them for 1-1, but there seems to be some variance in volume and pitch for all of them. Well, mainly pitch, actually. I think the volume stays the same. So we're going to have to see how it is. And if we think it is like slightly, let's say it's slightly too quiet, then you can easily fix that by setting this to 2 or to 5. I think the Ender Dragon in their entity, the wing flap is, I think it's literally set to 10, but just setting it at 1 for now should be good. Data gen is good. So let's go and take a look at our sound block. All right, here we are. Let's go in. We're already in creative. So let's give ourselves a note block and see if we get that recipe. We did, and I tried to put a little face on it, but we'll see how it goes. And then let's get ourselves some planks. I wonder if I added this to it. So we're gonna grab. I'm getting lazy. All right, and then some. So let's get ourselves in survival. Let's take a look if I added this to the planks. So basically, if I have this, it makes a chest, put in there. It does make the sound block. Did I add? I did. That's really cool. All right. So now we have, oh, I forgot the lang file. Oh, that's okay. And then the sound. That's the sound. All right, let's go in creative and fall on it. Ooh. Yeah, there is definitely a lot of sounds. Oh, you can hear clicking. I do have, you can always tell the subtitles are on the ground there, or at least at the bottom of the screen is what I meant. If you don't know how to turn on subtitles, you can go into your options, music and sounds, and if you scroll down, you can turn your subtitles on. If you choose not to play with subtitles, then, well, I don't know how you're playing the game because it is one of the best things ever. So that is how you add custom sounds into the game. Hopefully you guys can have a lot of fun with this. I certainly did. I had a lot of fun recording for all of them, and we also still have a lot of sounds to come along the way. Alright, so that is going to be it for this video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and without further ado...